Hi, my name is Jamal Ashraf, and in this time, I want to respond to one of the students' request, and then we're going to be looking at that. So I received this email from one of the students that it says, I have been working on challenge 5.2 for 24.1 for approximately 1 hour, but I can't seem to figure out how to complete the problem. I understood the problem wants to calculate the area of triangle through the formula provided, but I did not understand how to compute for the shifting in corner points mentioned by the problem. Okay, so before we start, I just want to put some things down that we are working with the Fundamental of Computer Science Introductory Python book in Zybook. We are in chapter 5, which is functions, and this is the questions that the students is asking for. So we have a triangle. So I'm going to go here one by one to see what is going on. I just want to be sure that I have everything in there. So I want to be sure that I am sharing my screen. Okay, so I just want to be sure that I did this correctly. So we are working on Zybook that's coming in from Kay Horseman and other authors about introduction to Python programming. We are on chapter 4, 5, which is functions, and we are working on functions, and we are looking at the challenge question 5.24.1. So we are starting with this area. Let's understand the problem first. It says, given the corner points to a triangle, we want to compute the area. Okay, so we want to compute the area. So what it says is, if we have 0, 0 in one of them, then we can use this formula. Okay, so far so good. So we are trying to understand the problem first. Okay, and now it says that we have something else, that if we shift everything, that's not going to affect our area. So we can potentially shift everything. So the goal is what? We want to make one of them 0, 0. All right. Let's put some examples together to see how we can do that. So to do that, I'm going to come up with some numbers. So I'm just going to put some numbers in there. I have not checked these things. I haven't done anything. I'm just putting some numbers in there. So I'm going to start with, let's say, 3 and 5 for this one. To make this simple for the other ones, I am just putting them higher numbers, and then we can work with the absolute number. So I'm going to put, let's say, 6 and 10 coordinate for second one, and I'm going to do, I don't know, 7 and I don't know, 11 for the third one. Again, not all of them is going to be correct. We're going to test them all out. Okay, so the first question that I would have is, how do I make this 3, 5 to 0? Remember, here it says if I deduct something, I can deduct it from all of them. So I'm going to use this area. I'm going to use this area and my goal is to make the first one 0. So I'm going to apply this to make this one to 0, 0. That's my thinking. Okay. So I'm trying to figure out my X and I'm trying to figure out my Y. Okay. So to do that, if I want to make this one 0, 0, my X has to be 3 and my Y has to be 5. So I'm going to set my X equal 3 and Y equal 5. Again, I'm not working on anything. I'm just trying to figure this out. Okay, so if my X is 3 and my Y is 5, I'm going to apply it to this area. Okay, so I'm going to do this here. So I am going to say, I'm going to create another text over here, and I'm going to apply my X and Y in here. So my X1 is what? My X1 is 3. So 3 minus 3. My second one, Y, 5 minus 5. That would be my first point. And remember, the goal is to make the first one 0. So I'm going to do the same thing for the rest of them. So that would be my X2, which is 6 minus 3, and Y2, which is 10 minus 5. And for the third one, I am doing X3, which is 7 minus 3, and then 11 minus 5. So what I am doing in here, basically what I'm saying is my X and Y is basically my first coordinate, correct? So if I want to modify this based on the first ones that I had, then I'm going to come up with this thing. So based on this one, I'm going to come up with what did I do the first one? It was x1 minus x1, y1 minus y1, x2 minus x1, y2 minus y1, and next one is going to be y3 minus, x, let's start with x, x3 minus x1, and y3 minus x, y1. Okay, let's be sure that I did this correctly and I am not missing any steps. So what I'm doing is I'm setting my X and Y to my X1 and Y1. I'm going through this and I'm going to deduct that from each one of them. So that's going to give me this one, which eventually what's going to happen is the first one is going to give me 0, 0, correct? The next one is going to give me whatever I have over there. Okay, I'm done here. So when I'm done here, I'm going to go back to this. It says, okay, if I have the one of them 0, 0, it doesn't matter if it's the first one, second one, third one, then I can use this formula that I'm going to be doing x1 times y2 minus x2 minus y1. So in this case, my x1 is this one, my y2 is this one. So in this case, I'm going to be multiplying the first one, which is, let me change the color to something else, maybe blue one. Okay, so this is going to be my first element. Changing that to a box. So this is my first one, right? It says, take the first one, multiply by y2. This is going to be my y2. Then it says x2, which is this one, multiply by y2, by y1, which is going to be this one, and deduct, make it absolute value, and divide it by 2. So I'm going to plug these things right here in this area to see what's going to happen. So it says x1 times y2. Okay, let's go create a box. Okay, why is it giving me a hard time to create a box for me? Okay, I'm going to continue here, so I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so applying this to the first one, I'm going to be using my first x, which is x2 minus x1. That would be my first x, right? x2 minus x1. That's my first x. It says multiply this by y2. My y2 is right here. So I'm multiplying this by y3 minus y1. Then we're going to deduct this from my x2, which is this one, x3 minus x1 times x. So that's my x2 times y1, which is x2, which is this one right here, which is y2 minus y1. So I did the first one, which is this one right here. Good. Let me get so this is my first one, x2 minus x1 times my y2, y3 minus y1. Then I'm going to do my x2, which is y2, x2. My x2 is x3 minus x1 times y1, which is y2 minus y1. Then I'm going to apply absolute to this, and I'm going to divide it by 2. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. So let's try it and see how it's going to happen, and if this is going to work or not, and then we're going to test it over here, and we can test it in it. So I'm going to create a PyCharm. So I'm going to open up my PyCharm. Let me do this. So I'm going to open up my PyCharm. I am going to clear this. Well, we're going to leave it here. So when I create my PyCharm, it's going to bring my previous project on. I'm going to say file, new. So it's going to create my new project. And this is the directory I set it up to keep my PyCharm projects. Of course, you can do it anywhere you want to organize it. It would have some subdirectories to where we are, what we're doing. And then I'm going to call this calculate triangle area. The environment is what I'm using over here. I'm using Python 3.19. I may or may not need to update this. That's not a problem. And then I'm going to create. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And when I do that, it's going to give me something like this. Okay, this is the template that PyCharm is going to give me. We're going to go over this later on. And this is the one it's giving me, and it's having a function on the top, and it has a main. And then I will go over this in another video. How does this work? But to be in line with what the book is saying, it says, okay, we're going to have two files. One is called geometry.py. The other one is called tester.py. Okay, so let's create those. I'm going to leave this main alone. I'm not going to worry about this right now. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to say, okay, create a new Python file. I'm going to call it geometry. So it's a good idea to put .py at the end of it, but because I say it's a new Python file, I'm hoping that's going to add the .py at the end of it. Let me double check to be sure I'm spelling geometry correct. Geometry. Okay, I think it's correct, but doesn't matter really. So I'm going to push enter. So it's going to create geometry.py. Remember, if I would have done a file from here, it would not add that extension. So I had to manually put .py at the end of it. We need the .py to be sure it's going to work. All right. So I have my geometry.py here, and there is geometry.py is going to have a function in it. So I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to paste it in here. Okay, so that's my geometry.py. And then I am going to go to the tester. I'm going to create a tester.py. Okay, I don't like to put it as a capital. I'm going to put it as a lowercase. Doesn't matter really. So I'm going to create a new Python file. We're going to call it tester. Again, because it's a Python file, it's going to add that extension of .py at the end of it. And in my tester, I will have this. Okay, so we start with geometry. So it has the parameter. We have these comments on the top, and we are calculating the area. So it's giving me an error over here because PyCharm and other IDEs are good about things. It says indent expected. So we have to do some indentation. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply this one right there. So basically what we want to say is we're going to say x2 minus x1 times y3 minus y1 minus x3 minus x1 times y2 minus y1. Okay, we need to make an absolute value of this. Okay, so I'm going to put a parenthesis around here. I'm going to put a absolute value. Okay, because I have an ID, it's going to tell me about the absolute value. I could look it up or use some other tools to use it. Okay, so it says absolute of this one. So it says something is wrong because I have and expected. Mainly my parentheses are not lined. So I'm just going to put another parenthesis over here to make it happy. And another thing that we have to do, if I look at the problem, it says when we're doing the absolute, we got to divide it by 2. So this would be my area. So I'm going to say area equal this, and then I'm going to return area. Okay, now I have the tester here, and I want to see if this is going to work. So I'm going to run it here, and then I'm going to run it on the Zybook to see if it's going to work or not. So I'm going to go, says run, and I want to go run. I want to, I don't want to run tester. I want to run test. Okay, so I'm going to pick from here. So we start with this one. So when I run it, it comes over here and it's just waiting for some inputs. I don't like this because it doesn't tell me what's going on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. I'm going to put some prompt in there and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to put some prompt in here and I'm going to say, please enter X1. And then I'm going to use it, copy and paste it. This one is for Y1. Uh, this one is going to be for X2. This one is going to be for Y2. This one is going to be for X3. And this one is going to be for Y3. Now, when I run it, now it's going to say, please enter X1. So my X1 was, remember, this is my X1. So my X1 is 3. My Y1 is 5. Please enter X2, which is 6. And then 10, 7, 11. Okay, so it's going to give me this for the area. Now, I have two options. I need to test actually I have multiple options. I have to test my result and I want to check my code to see if this is correct. I'm going to be using my ChatGPT to do that, or I can use the Zybook to do that, and I can have ChatGPT to test it for me and check these things for me. So one way of doing it is I'm going to go and use my ChatGPT that should be around here somewhere. Okay, I'm going to take it away from here. I'm going to just bring my ChatGPT. Okay, so I am going to bring my ChatGPT over here. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new one. We can talk about this later. So we're going to create a new one. And I'm going to say, what is the area of these, what is the area of triangle with these points? So I am going to go put my points in there. That would be 3, 5, 6, 10, 7, 11, and then let's see what it says. So it's giving me some steps that I went through at the beginning, and it's telling me that should be 1 square unit, which is not coming out with the same thing that I have in there. Okay, so we got to do some testing to see what's going on because mine is 9, this one is 1. So maybe something is wrong. Maybe I'm doing it incorrectly. So I'm doing, let's check that number, 0.35, 610, 711, and it's calculating the area. And then it's coming up with this one. Okay, so let's see what we're doing over here. So with geometry, I have this divided by 2, and it is not giving me the correct one. One thing I can do is I can put a breakpoint over here. I can run my program up to this point and check to see what's going on to this point. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the debugger. So it's going to so it says X1, I'm going to put 3 in there. I'm going to put 5 in here. I'm going to put 6 in there. I'm going to put 10 in there. I'm going to put 7 in there. And I'm going to put 11 in there. When I run it, it comes here. Okay, my X1 is 3, 6, 7, 5, 10, and 11 when we get to here. And then we have these options over here. It says a step over. It says a step into. It says a step into my code. And it says get out of here. And it says run to cursor. So I can run it back to this cursor, or I can go to the next one. So I'm going to go using this one. So now when I'm done here, I went to the next one. So I have my area calculated to 9. But the ChatGPT says it's not supposed to be 9. So let's double check my stuff over here to see what I'm doing wrong. So it's supposed to be x2 minus x1, y3 minus y1, x3 minus x1, y3 minus x1. So I put 1 here, and that shows me what I did wrong. So what I'm going to do is change this one to x1, and then actually it should be y2 minus y1. So now I know that my result was not wrong, correct. I went back and then I tried to see what's wrong with my code, and then I find my mistakes. Now I'm going to do what? Now I'm going to run it again. I can run it in debug, or I can run it in regular. So I'm going to run it again in the debug. So it's going to run, come to this point again. And so for my x1, I have 3. For my y1, I have 5. x2 is 6. Then I have 10. Then I have 7. And then I have 11. So it comes here. Again, I have these options for my debugging. So I'm going to use this one. Now my area is 1, which is the same as my ChatGPT. So again, I want to emphasize here that using ChatGPT as a tool is good. But if I have used ChatGPT to write the code from the beginning, then I wouldn't be learning in it. So the focus is what? We want to use AI tools for learning. We don't want AI tools to do my job. I want to use it to help me with my job. And that's the goal, to use it. Okay, now that I have this and I know it's correct, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to give me some suggestions of what I'm doing over here. Okay, so I can have ChatGPT to check my code, to give me some suggestions, or to do whatever we need to do. Another thing that I can do, which I may or may not do it depending on the situation that I have, I am calculating area and I am returning it over here. I basically could eliminate area and I just say return this one. I think at the beginning, it is better to have a variable. I think it's better to have that. To make it easier to understand. I'm a lazy typist. I like to do these kind of things, but sometimes it's not readable. It's not easy to follow. So some of the things that we're going to be consider about the coding is my code should be readable for the future coders, including myself. And it has to be efficient. And we should have some comments in there all over the place to be sure my code is readable. Believe me, you come back to this code 6 months from now, you cannot make sense out of it, yet other people to do. Okay, so that's what we did. And then I can take that one. So I can take this. I can go to my Zybook. I am going to clear these things that I have writing in here. I'm going to go to my geometry. And then I'm going to put my code here. I'm going to delete these things over here. And I'm going to have it to check for me. Okay, so it's giving me an error over here. So I am going to take the comment out because it was doing a comment. So let's do a check again. That's part of learning. You do mistakes and then you go back, and part of it is how to find your mistakes. That is almost impossible to write a code that works the first time. And we're just going to debug it, and we can use the tools to debug it for us, or we can understand it. And the best thing I learned from tutoring was the skills to debug the code for myself and other people. Okay, so the first one went through, the second one went through, the third one went through, the fourth one went through, one went through, and then that's what I have for it. Okay, so I'm going to stop it right here. Let me know if you have more questions, and then we can go from there.